Live from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
And hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray, and we're virtual still, folks. We're not back in our normal home inside Renaissance Bank on Windward Parkway in Alpharetta, but we're looking forward to that day. In the meantime, Renaissance Bank branches are open by appointment only. So go to renaissancebank.com, find your local branch. They've got over 200 to choose from throughout the South. So there's one nearby, wherever you are in the South, and give them a try. And give them more than a try, because, folks, I know how well they work with small businesses, because I've worked with them on some of my small business clients, and they do an awesome job. They actually answered their own phone. You don't have to deal with a phone tree, and you don't have to deal online all the time, and they're awesome. So check them out, renaissancebank.com. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And now I want to welcome Alison ONeil. And Alison is the founder of Becomes You Charitable Foundation. Alison, welcome.
Well, good morning, John, and your audience. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, great to have you here. So for those that don't know you and would love to know more about Becomes You Charitable Foundation, why don't you give us an overview and how you're serving folks out there?
Okay, would love to. The charity I started in 2006 after my father died, and I always like people to know where the name came from first, because people get a little distracted with the term beauty and think it's a very superficial concept. But in fact, we actually touch people at the very heart of who they are and encourage older adults who are currently suffering a great deal with the pandemic, more than even normal. But a regular condition that older adults are contending with is a sense of isolation, a sense of unimportance. And so what we do on a general basis is provide aesthetic health services, which are hair, skin, nail, massage therapy, facials. So we touch people. And we've touched over 5,000 people and provided over 15,000 services since we started. So that's primarily what we do. It's a mental health program as well as a grooming and hygiene for folks that really benefit a great deal from this.
Wow, that's awesome work. And this really, I take it, comes out of your day-to-day professional work, right?
It sure does. Yeah, I have a very unique background, but I'm sort of a psychologist and also a clinical skincare specialist. And I developed a clinic at Emory in 1982 in dermatologic rehabilitation, where I actually worked with patients who had lost their appearance to trauma or different chronic illnesses like lupus or scleroderma or vitiligo, and other self-perceived conditions where people think they have conditions, or people that have psychological issues. There's a condition where people actually pick on themselves, and they literally pick on themselves. So I worked with those people for many, many years. I've had a clinic in taking care of healthy skin, acne patients, and really helping people learn to live with those conditions. So I translated all of my knowledge when I didn't tell you initially, but beauty becomes you are 3 words that my father said to me just before he died. And, and what they really mean. And he had cancer that metastasized to his bones and brain. Mm-hmm. And he was in home hospice for 9 months with my mother and I helping to take care of him primarily. And he was in good spirits every day, and he'd wake up and he'd say, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm going to feel better tomorrow. And he'd put his thumbs up, and people actually came by our house after a while because they left feeling better than they thought they would. Because a lot of people who are ill don't get a lot of visitors because people think, oh, it's going to be depressing. But he actually made people feel better, which is, people should take a chance and visit people if you have that fear. But so at the end of near the end of his life, about 6 weeks before, we were on the porch and I was helping him. He was digging in some flowers and I was working on a bird feeder. And anyway, he said to me, he called my name Allie out of the blue. And at this point, his cancer, as I said, had metastasized to his brain. So he had dementia. He wasn't really having conversations beyond talking about things that had happened in World War II when he was at Utah Beach, which he never spoke about before. And we had a lot of interesting things. But he said, Allie, and I went over to him. And, a lot of people are dealing with it right now, having a loved one that is in this condition. We were told 6 times he had 24 hours to live over a course of 3 years. So we knew at the end of the day what our responsibility was, my mother and I, was just to keep him comfortable. So I went over and I said, Dad, what can I do? How can I help you? And he kept digging in his flowers and digging. And finally he turned around and he just said, beauty becomes you. And then I kind of held my heart. He went back to his flowers and I thought, wow, all these years I've worked with my patients. And in a way I have said, it'll be what because to me it meant thank you for everything you've done for me. For that, you've become beauty. And then I thought, well, that's kind of the message I'd given to my patients who were burned beyond recognition or had conditions that they felt so conscious of that they couldn't go out in public, but it would be what they did with their lives. And that's what I've turned Beauty Becomes You into, is a charity. I was inspired and encouraged by others to start this work. And it's not just like it happens. People think, oh, it's a charity. That must have been easy. It's not that easy. It took, I thought initially in fact, somebody from Estee Lauder encouraged me to start this as a charity, a really top guy. And that was a few months after my dad died. And then it took another 7 or 8 months before I actually was visiting the Senior Citizen Services of Metropolitan Atlanta, where they were celebrating the 40th anniversary of Meals on Wheels. So this was 2005. And honestly, I hadn't spent much time in senior living or senior day centers. So it was eye-opening to be there, number one. But as I toured the center and I saw everything was lit up bright as day, they have a center there that, and many of these senior centers today have similar offerings, but they have areas where they do computer work and they teach seniors how to use computers. And back then that was really new, but today, obviously as we're getting to that stage, we're a little more familiar, thank goodness. But, they have a gardening center and they have a mild to moderate Alzheimer's day center. And I had to slip away from the tour group I was with. It's a big center. And as I said, everything lit up bright as day. As I came back to join my group, I noticed this small corner. And then it was all dark. It was the only place in this entire center that was in the dark. And ironically, in this particular space were 2 old shampoo bowls and 2 old shampoo chairs. And a little old manicure pedicure stand. And I said, we went and got the manager. I said, why is everything lit up bright as day? And this is in the dark. And here my whole life has been about the importance of self-esteem and appearance. And she said, oh, it's really sad. This is the favorite place of our members, but we can't afford to keep it staffed and we can't afford the products. So that's where my mission was born. I knew I had to turn those lights on, and I knew we needed to provide those services for senior adults who absolutely respond incredibly. You see, there's a condition called failure to thrive syndrome. If you want to break in, you can.
Just a reminder, folks, we're here speaking with Alison ONeil, and Alison is the founder of Beauty Becomes You Charitable Foundation. Alison, you're going to talk about failure to thrive syndrome. Yeah.
It's really interesting from a mental health perspective. Failure to thrive syndrome, a lot of your audience may be familiar with the term because in 1962, it was actually a term that applied to premature infants. And when infants, were dying and they couldn't figure out how to get them to take their food. And so someone created those incubators where you can put your hands in, and they learned that if they petted the babies would then assimilate their food and they would thrive. So today that condition is fairly well under control for premature infants. But if you think about it, the isolation factors for seniors as people lose their spouses and some are not as socially interactive as others, even people that live in senior communities often need to be encouraged to join in with the other neighbors that they have. But it's a very challenging thing when you don't feel so good about yourself anymore. You don't have a job. You don't have a purpose. You don't think you have a meaning anymore. When in fact, you have a great meaning if you're an older adult and you have a lot to share, but there's just not been a platform. So failure to thrive syndrome occurs with senior adults. Generally, it's medically diagnosed late stage when someone's in a nursing home and they're being bounced around from room to room and they give up on living. But what I see from my mental health perspective is it starts long before that, as people lose their spouse, as they transition into the third or fourth stage of their life, whatever they want to call that. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the final frontier. And, people go in with courage and can live until I've met 4 107-year-olds in this program.
Oh,
in
wow.
the last 15 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And many, many 100-year-olds and many, 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 obviously people in their 90s now. And we are living longer and there are more people, but we have to have a sense of purpose and meaning to make it worth living. And so that's what we do. And when we provide our services and we go in, generally we provide a service that is kind of a pop-up spa, if you will, and it's called a Day of Timeless Beauty. And what we do is it takes about 3 months to put one of these events on. It's rather exhausting because I'm usually the primary one doing it. It's a volunteer organization to date, but we have more seniors than ever and caregivers. We also invite family caregivers who are struggling, who are doing their best to take care. And, a lot of people don't know this, but there are more caregivers, family caregivers in hospice today than there are the people they take care of. Mm. And that's a huge, huge and very important statistic for people to kind of get their heads around. And I know if there are people on your show listening that are family caregivers, they get it because they put themselves last. They don't take care of their own health because they've got to spend the time taking care of this other person. So it's very important for family caregivers to figure out how to support themselves through this period as well. So we give some support in those arenas as well, try to provide education. But one of the neat things is when someone goes through a Day of Timeless Beauty and they've had their hair cut, and men and women both, by the way, they participate. And men usually are hesitant about getting facials at first, but once they're laying down there and they have 4 or 5 estheticians massaging their hands and feet and face, they succumb to relaxation.
Sure.
Anyway.
So, talk about what's going on today. I mean, obviously we're in a pandemic environment, and you're talking about an at-risk population where social distancing is more important than probably for any other age group. Talk about how you're working and trying to work through all this current environment.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, John. Yeah, it's when the pandemic started. I mean, obviously, my first priority is to address the isolation that people are living with, and that's why our programs usually work. But we're not allowed to touch anybody right now. So we created the Circles of Light initiative. And when I say we, it's just a band of very enthusiastic, passionate volunteers who meet every Friday at 11 o'clock on a Zoom call. And we've grown this around the country now, and it continues to grow. And we've asked people to write 3 letters and ask 3 more people to write 3 letters. We have numerous senior living communities around the country, in Georgia, in South Carolina, in Texas, and they continue to grow, Florida. And we also have teens that are involved, and we've actually created a teen board during this period as well. And we call them the Bright Lights. And the Bright Lights, they are amazing young people who are National Honor Society students who really just reached out because they heard about Beauty Becomes You and wanted to do something for older adults. So they are very actively involved in our letter writing campaign. And what we're hoping is that once the pandemic is done and we're allowed to see people, that those people who live in the same communities will meet face to face. But for right now, it is a Pen Pal program. And we have a unique component to our Pen Pal program. We ask everyone to include a self-addressed stamped envelope so that the person can send a letter back, because a lot of seniors don't have the money to buy a stamp or have the wherewithal or the convenience of getting that right now. So
sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I think it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. I mean, obviously, if those folks cannot see you and your volunteers, they can't see their family members.
Right.
So it makes this work vitally important, more so than ever, because this is the kind of contact that is needed more than ever.
That's very true. Yeah, we've probably all seen the video with the family member sitting out in the parking lot or touching the window of their loved one. A lot of people don't live on that first floor, so they don't even have that capability. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they can't see their loved ones. Right now, a friend of mine, she's 99, will be 100 in September. Mitzi stays at Dunwoody Place. And they were planning a big 100th birthday for her. And she has been so depressed because she can't see her family. She can't see her friends. She does live on the first floor, but it's not the way she wants to live her last days either. This is another thing. I mean, people are very saddened by the fact that they're not living until they die. And that's what we all want to do, is live until we die. So it's a very different world. And one person that got a letter that we've heard back from that I was really touched by was a woman that had some surgery. And when she opened her letter, her first response was, why am I the one who gets this letter? Why am I so important? And that really spoke to that whole issue of people not feeling important. You know, John, we have a challenge because people, speaking of that, is on the other side, the letter writers also think, why would someone want a letter from me? Mm-hmm. And we have a challenge with getting people to write the letters because they get stopped. And it's such a remarkable thing when you do write a letter. It's not about what you get back. It's what you put into it. Sure. And it's just like giving any other gift. That's the gift right there.
Well, and that's what you're looking for right now. So those that have heard what you've had to say and are motivated, would like to get connected and help write, tell them how they can do that.
It's very simple. Our website is, of course, www.beautybecomesYou.org. Don't put .com in there. Some plastic surgeon that does fancy surgery on, I think, pole dancers in Texas got my beautybecomesYou.com. Okay. So it's beautybecomesYou.org.
Right.
And on that, we have a volunteer page, and you just send an email directly. It comes right to me. And then we will get you structured. There's also a page on the website specifically that outlines what we're doing with Circles of Light.
And as you mentioned earlier, this is something that you can do wherever you are. So you're not, there's no geography requirement here. You can be in your home and send cards and just be in touch with you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've created a program because the program directors are rather overwhelmed. So we've taken into account pretty much everything we could to make sure the program works. But we have volunteers at Beauty Becomes You who are orchestrating the letters. So we have people that are responsible for certain communities, and you send their letters to them, and then they get a bulk of the letters and then give it to the program director. So we're not getting one and they have to manage it. Another thing that's amazing is we have a couple of companies so far that are also donating product, skincare products that accompany the letters as they're delivered to the individuals who receive them. And so that's a really nice touch for some of our beauty industry products.
That's awesome. BeautybecomesYou.org, right?
Thank you.
BeautybecomesYou.org, folks. Let's be in touch with Alison there through the website and get connected and send a few cards to folks that could really use a pick-me-up. And a nice surprise in the mail. So Alison ONeil, she's the founder of this great organization, Beauty Becomes You Charitable Foundation. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. And thanks to your audience for their support. Appreciate that.
Folks, if you need some help curing some headaches that involve administrative tasks, bookkeeping, marketing, maybe you need a workshop plan that's virtual and you don't really know how to do that, well, I've got a suggestion that involves picking up the phone and calling SES Cabedo 770-442-9246. SEUC is the chief executive angel of Office Angels, and her team are, they've been around for 18 years, her team has, and she picks the right person for your need, and they fly in virtually, get the job done, and fly right back out. And they've been doing this work virtually for 18 years now, so they know how this current environment works, and it's not a problem for them. So give Essie a call if you've got any of those issues, or go to officeangels.us for more information. Folks, just a quick reminder on this show, it can be heard on all the major podcast apps, whether that's Apple, Stitcher, Google, Spotify, TuneIn. We're even on YouTube, so check us out. Search for North Fulton Business Radio, and you'll find the show. It would be helpful to us, whatever your favorite app is, go on, find the show, subscribe, and give us a great review. And because that's not really about us, it's about our guest, because it helps folks find the show, and folks can hear about the good work of people like Alison and some of the other great folks that we've had on this show for the last 4 years. So that would really be appreciated by everyone. And we're also on social media, so connect with us there. LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We're North Fulton BRX. So for my guest, Alison O'Neil, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on North Fulton Business Radio.